Know that place when we've got two parts that simply do not want to get along. It's commonly referred to as polarized parts, and the more we push, the more stuck our system gets. And that's because if you want to zoom out, that's kind of like taking two sides, right? So either we take the side of part A or B, and of course that creates more friction. You can literally think about the parts like children. If you've ever been around kids or if you grew up having siblings, you know that once the parent sides with one of your siblings, that's not going to work, is it? There's a second option that we commonly can sort of fall into. It's like a pitfall, which is trying to mitigate and mediate between those parts. So to mitigate the problem and mediate between the two parts. But what we need to really become aware of, and this is subtle, this can get very subtle because the part that arises that is doing the mediation is another part. It's a very subtle part. It can be self-like, meaning that it has a lot of self qualities in that it tries to help and mediate and restore balance and love and lightness of being and all of that. So it's a very sweet part. Of course it is. However, in general, we try to not approach parts from another part. That usually doesn't end well. That's again to use the analogy of siblings. If there are three of you, two siblings fight and the third one steps in. Of course, sometimes that can work. It can work very well. And if that works, great. It's not a big no-no or anything like that. But I'm talking about the case when that still doesn't work, right? So siblings fight, the third sibling steps in, and it's just no, no, because the third sibling, being apart, still has an agenda. No matter how subtle, how kind, how well intentioned there is an agenda, it is not self. For self is truly unconditional, is agendaless, and imbues unconditional love, is what I wanted to say. And it is in that light of that gentle, agendaless, unconditional love that the parts find their way. And now that might be extremely frustrating to the manager part that likes order, likes a strategy, likes outcomes, and likes it on a schedule, stats or, this should have been done yesterday kind of thing. But sometimes slowing down is better than rushing and not getting there at all. And in this case, when we try to push the system into unentangling, to some point of letting go and getting along forcibly, it's just not a good idea. And again, analogies from regular life really lend themselves very well here. It's sort of like two friends or two people, colleagues, what have you, not getting along, and there being this third person that steps in with this agenda of fixing it. And the two people involved in that conflict, of course, feel that pressure. And from that pressure, it usually doesn't pan out the way we want to. So my invitation to you is next time this polarity that you just cannot seem to get out of arises, find your stance as that which is beyond. And we're not talking about bypassing the problem and just, turning a blind eye and pretending like everything is fine and going about our business. No, do what you do. Sit down on your meditation cushion if that helps, um, and be with your parts. But be with them not from a part, not from a manager. Be with them from self. That needs no lack. That knows no lack. Sorry, that doesn't need anything. That doesn't need anything to be different than what it is. It simply shines its loving light of presence. And then something magical happens because in that light, the parts involved in the conflict, they relax. For it is not what they think they want, that's the thing they actually want. You follow me? They think they might want this and that, XYZ. The other part wants ABC. They can get along, they can figure it out. But in truth, they just want to feel whole, they want to feel at peace, they want to find rest, they want to come back home. They want to feel that unconditional love that only self can offer them. And as they begin to touch and melt back into that loving presence of self, the actual surface level specific problem that they were involved in, so to speak, takes care of itself. It's not to say that it magically disappears, it just really finds a way to resolve itself organically. As the parts relax and feel loved, they find a way to compromise if that's what it takes. And again, an analogy from real life would be, two children fighting because they feel not good enough. They feel ashamed, they feel guilty, something else is up. They feel like they lack something, they lack parents' affection or love. And of course, in the moment when both of the children, the siblings, in this specific example, as they feel like they are receiving that which they truly want, it was never about the toy. It was never about sharing or not sharing. It was about feeling at home, feeling safe, feeling loved unconditionally. And as they surrender to that parent's loving presence, the problem about sharing toys or whatever else it might be, it simply resolves itself. So let me know if that resonates, or if you have another strategy or a trick up your sleeve that you like to use when you encounter polarized parts, and I'll see you in the next video.